Donald Trump hosted another massive rally in Pennsylvania today, folks.
I really give a very big hello to Pennsylvania. It's great to be back in this beautiful Commonwealth with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots.
So Donald Trump said thousands of proud, hardworking patriots. Did you hear Donald Trump say that? Well, if we look at Kamala Harris, it looks like she had a lot fewer people in her rally. So if we look here, check it out, guys. Check out the crowd at Kamala Harris's rally in North Carolina today. There were reportedly only 109 attendees, and this is including the press, the staff, employees, like people who work for Kamala Harris. 109 people. So this is the turnout when there are no free concerts, there's no cash incentives or celebrities performing at the event. Can you imagine that? 109 people showing up for this event. So what have we been seeing? We've been seeing a mix of empty seats at Kamala Harris's rallies, but then, other times we see packed houses. So which is it? That's the real question. Which is it, guys? Now, I want to ask you a question. I want you to look at this image on your screen. Look at this person on the screen. Does anybody know who she is? I think we all know who she is, right? So it's everyone's favorite person, okay? But in addition to that, I want you guys to, in one word, describe this person to me in the comment section down below. I want to hear from you guys. By the way, if you guys haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. You guys are absolutely freaking amazing.
Everyday prices are too high. It feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. The bills add up. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes, prescription medication, the cost of food. A loaf of bread costs 50% more. Ground beef is up almost 50%. There's a serious housing shortage. The price of housing has gone up. It's too difficult to build, and it's driving prices up. It is out of reach. The size of down payments have gone up as well. Costs are still too high. There's not much left at the end of the month, and prices are still too high. Everyday prices are too high.
But Kamala, you are the cause of this. You are the, along with the borders you're the inflation czar. This is your Bidenomics in effect right now. What are you talking about? Now, Caitlin Collins is another never Trumper who guests on Stephen Colbert's show. So Collins is a CNN anchor who was made viral by Donald Trump during a very heated moment on their network. Check this out.
Why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
the
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
That is a key point there. Google and Meta, that's Facebook, Instagram, are certainly going out of their way to fortify another election. It's something that is being noticed by more and more Americans, including people, big wigs in Silicon Valley like Elon Musk.
Now, this is exactly my thought, because most of what you and I just saw some weeks ago, they're now gone from the internet. Either that or they're buried so deep down in the algorithm that it's just becoming next to impossible to find them. And while a lot of us have an idea as to who the real Kamala Harris is, do you think that she herself is aware of who she is?
I said to the congressman, I didn't know he could preach like that.
Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets, and let me tell you, as they say, they not like us.
Do I see people testifying? Can I get a witness?
So authentic, isn't she? Compare her accent there to what we just heard to how she sounds normally, like when she appeared on the set of a drag queen show.
We are all in this together, and your vote is your power. So please make sure your voice is heard this November.
Who's the real Kamala? And as for the media outrage about Donald Trump pointing out...
Okay, girl, not sure where the accent goes every time you kind of switch places, but it's kind of hard to keep up. So Kamala Harris argues that she knows who she is. She's not doing these strange acts just to pander to your votes. This is what she says. And this is the real Kamala Harris that's in front of us right now. Meanwhile, Donald Trump on his end has never pandered to any demographic besides using policies.
Kamala Harris is now the competitor to Trump. Do you feel better or worse about your chances against Kamala Harris versus Joe Biden?
I don't see her stacking up against Trump, especially when she laughs at every single question that she's asked like a hyena, and she doesn't have that best wording with sentences even against Biden does.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are the children of the community.
Well, we are the United States of America because we are united. And we are states.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time. Right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Whatever we have in store cannot be known. The past was once the future. The future is, I should say, unknown.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
Obesity is a serious disease, and it needs to be taken seriously.
You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home. Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right. And that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times.
Why do you all keep questioning her identity? She's always identified as a black woman. She is biracial. She has a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. She's always identified as both. Why are you questioning that?
Well, George, first of all, this is something that's actually a conversation throughout social media right now. There were a lot of people who are trying to figure this out. But again, that's a side issue, not the main issue. The main issue.
Sir, one second. You just did it. You just did it again.
Of the United States.
Why do you insist on questioning her racial identity?
You want me to talk?
I want you to answer my question.
George, now that you're done yelling at me, let me answer. He talked about it on the stage yesterday in Atlanta for 2 minutes? He spent more than 35, 40 minutes going after her record, talking about how radical of a senator that she was. She was the most liberal senator in the United States, in the United States Senate. That is a fact. He talked about the job that she did as vice president of the United States, a job, I will add, which has been a failure for the American people. I know you guys like to glom on to this that he talks about in jest or in a serious manner for about a minute or so, but what you do not cover is the litany of failures of Kamala Harris. That's what you're not covering, George.
So questioning somebody's racial identity for a couple minutes is okay?
George, I'm going to tell you again, he brought it up. AP is the one that wrote the headline when she first came in to the United States Senate. Didn't talk about her being black, talked about her being the first Indian American senator. AP brought that up. I mean, George, we could have this conversation for the entire segment, but none of this matters to the American people.
Vice President Kamala Harris is now slowly trying to get away from the idea of Bidenomics. Now, it's probably because she finally understands that the plan just straight up sucks. Why else would she say that groceries are still too high, right? I mean, she tries to sell the idea that the economy is doing well, but then she says that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. She's kind of like stuck between a rock and a hard place because she's basically been the vice president for 4 years, and all they can show for it is an economy that's destroying the middle class, the working class. They wanted us to believe that the middle class was their priority, but they became more of the victim, really. The problem now is that she's been running for president, and she wants us to believe that for her to do something about these prices, she has to be put in as the commander-in-chief. Which begs the question, what the heck have you been doing for the last 4 years?
Most people don't know the ins and outs of an election and sort of, what's going on behind the scenes, but they know how much ground beef costs them, eggs cost them, bread costs, and they are sick of it. Kamala Harris is distancing herself from all of it. You say that the vice president owns President Biden's economy, and she'll keep it going. Explain.
Well, as we saw from the debate, President Biden has not been running things, for the past, who knows whether it's months or years. So it could only have been the vice president who was in charge. And let's go back. The Vice President Harris was the deciding vote for the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yes, that's right.
So she owns those. They would not have passed. It was 50-50. She broke the tie.
Yes, she did.
Those caused the great inflation. She was the border czar. That Immigration. So, I've talked about interest rates, inflation, and immigration are the things killing working class America. Tell me which one of those she doesn't own.
So that was Scott Bessent, who is the Key Square Capital Management CEO and former Soros Fund Management CIO. So he thinks that the Biden presidency was basically the Kamala Harris presidency because Joe Biden hasn't been in mental shape for some time now, which means that the economy that we have right now is owned by Kamala Harris. This is the future for America if she's voted in as the president. Now, just take the Inflation Reduction Act. It was named in such a sleazy way to try and convince us that inflation was going to be going down. But they printed so much money and they contributed to inflation where businesses and households went belly up. And even with this blatant disrespect for the American people, they still want to sell Harris as the one that can solve all these problems that they created.
An exclusive new WCBB UMass Amherst poll shows Vice President Kamala Harris appears to be making headway with voters.
The new poll surveyed 1,000 people nationwide. 46% said they approved of the job Harris is doing. That's higher than her boss, who had a 41% approval rating. 47% disapprove of Harris's job performance. That's compared to 51% a year ago. Harris gets high marks when it comes to whether she's a stronger candidate than President Biden. 53% said she's a better pick, compared to 24% who disagreed that she is stronger than Mr. Biden.
When it comes to how voters would describe the vice president in one word, it's a mixed bag, as you can see. The word strong is the biggest vote getter, but it's competing with weak. Inexperienced competing with intelligent, showing a mix of options there.
Now, what's really surprising here, guys, is that nothing has changed since her ratings were low. Literally nothing has changed. It's not like they've solved any of our problems. She became the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, and by some sort of a miracle, people like her now, or at least they're trying to sell us the fact that people like her now. And even Charlemagne the Fraud, an American radio host that's all for Kamala Harris, voiced his concerns about the vice president being unavailable to the media.
I really don't know. I mean, it's the bottom of the ninth inning, right? Like, I feel like she should be any and everywhere, having these conversations. I truly don't know why she hasn't, done any interviews yet.
Katie, is pressure building on her to be more unscripted?
I don't know if pressure's building, but I think what we're seeing from her and her campaign is a normal campaign. Donald Trump the other day impromptu called for a press conference, a 2-hour press conference that was impulsive and angry. And right now we're seeing a campaign run by professionals and by people who know what they're doing. It's the campaigns that senators run, the campaigns that other presidential campaigns have run, and it's strategic and it's tactical. She will come out and do interviews, but right now she's doing the things that matter. She's going to rallies, she's talking to voters, and she's talking to donors, and she's finalizing her policy platform before the convention.
Does she need to show that she can handle herself unscripted in news conferences or interviews?
Yes, the teleprompter is her best friend. And we can argue that this is new, that she has just been given the keys to the kingdom for being the presidential nominee. She should have been getting groomed with this for years. Months even, but she's still sticking to the same talking points, the same speech. It's getting to be a little too much, and they just need fresh content. You can't just rely on social media to have it winning the hearts. She needs to actually be talking, giving the rallies, and there's no reason why she shouldn't be sitting down for softballs.
So yeah, there's no reason why she shouldn't be sitting down for interviews. Then again, Sarah Sellup made a very good point here. Maybe Kamala's not doing live questions because the teleprompter is her best friend. I mean, we're just trying to avoid the worst possible outcome for our country with the November election here. And I think Kamala Harris finally sitting down to do an honest interview, maybe even a press conference, will show us her true colors, and that it's going to be the deciding factor for a lot of Americans. You know what I'm saying, guys? Even CNN host and Washington Post columnist Fareed Zakaria spoke up about how Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, are leading a highly emotion-based, vibes-heavy campaign. In his own words, light on substance and high on feelings. And that's coming from a CNN host and Washington Post columnist, you guys. All the details and so much more in today's video, so stay right there. So we're 20 plus days in, you guys. Vice President Kamala Harris has gone 20 plus days without holding a formal press conference or a sit-down interview since becoming the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee. After President Joe Biden stepped back and endorsed her on July 21st, Harris came out as the likely nominee, officially clinching the nomination recently. She's been out and about on the campaign trail, talking at events and giving informal remarks to reporters, but has not managed a formal press conference or in-depth interview in the 3 weeks almost a month now that has followed. And I think she knows how bad she's doing. She tried saving some face by briefly talking to reporters traveling with her to Michigan. It was just over a minute. She basically just said that she's excited about debating Donald Trump on September 10th on ABC, and she stood up for her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's military record. She also mentioned that her team is trying to line up an interview before the month is out. The operative word here being try. She made headlines when she announced Walz as her vice presidential choice, but even as a duo, they haven't really sat down with the media in a formal setting. And GOP vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance wasn't going to let him get away with that. He's been pretty outspoken, urging the media to push Harris harder for answers. He even